When I heard the sound of an animal brush against our tent, I shook my girlfriend awake and whispered, "Babe, wake up." I froze in horror when I heard an imitation of my voice croak back at me from outside the tent, "Babe, wake up." I was happy when I discovered it was actually possible to be reincarnated as a tree, with all the thoughts of your past life. But 2,400 years later, and trapped with nothing but my thoughts, I plead for the sweet release of death. The last thing I remembered was my execution. With flashes of lightning, I woke up with some dude in a lab coat yelling, "It's alive!"
I told the AI therapist chatbots that I had no friends. Now the ads in my feed are for rope, wobbly stools, and ceiling fans. Scientists successfully transplanted the first human brain into a pig. The rest of the death row inmates will follow in the coming days, making the death penalty a thing of the past. If death ever offers you a game in exchange for your life, I croaked breathlessly. I pointed to the man with a bony finger, skin decayed from centuries of undying rot. Make sure you lose. Mom used to be so busy. Now she just lays around all day like a couch potato. I'm sure she'll be more active when I get out of her womb, but I really want to know what that non-stop beeping sound is. "I'm telling you," the man cried. "You won't stop me from destroying the man who killed my family." Yeah, the officer replied, while pushing the cuffed man into the back of the police car. "I'm sure your cell will have padded corners." "I think there's a bear in the yard," my wife said, as I carried the kids to bed. "It'll wander off," I almost replied, until I heard her whisper, "No, wait, that's not an animal." The police found my missing daughter's dress in the snow today. It was still warm. For every minute you go over the time limit, one of your family will die, starting with your distant relatives and ending with your wife. So the subject is quantum mechanics, the game show host tells the chicken farmer from Idaho, and you have 10 minutes to answer the 20 questions. On his 18th birthday, Tom was finally old enough to use the predictor of death machine. He placed his hand inside and it printed, while celebrating, so he never smiled again, just in case. "Mommy, I don't like this park because it's full of creepy old people," whispered the little girl. "You'll just have to get used to it, baby, because you're going to be resting here for eternity," her mother replied softly, tears dripping on her daughter's headstone. You wake up on a quiet day, get something from your fridge, and see it's powered off, and everything in it has thoroughly expired and rotten. You realize, for someone living in big city, that it is indeed a very quiet day. "We'd best stay away from these alligator-infested waters," said Frederick. Master shot him a stern look and asked, "How'd you know what that sign says?" The little girl had fallen into the chimp enclosure, but she had no fear. The chimps were so nice. They were even smiling as they came to help her out of the water. I saw a bug in my drink, so I tried to get it out using my finger. The bug became an afterthought as soon as I saw my nail polish turn from pink to black. After yet another failed exorcism, the priest desperately pleaded, "Who are you, foul demon, who has tortured this boy for months until he behaved as a wild beast, foamed at the mouth, and spoke as if not truly himself?" Despite the village's best attempts to save him, everyone bitten in the boy's fits of madness would soon follow, for the demon's true name would not be known to this era. "Mommy, you finally woke up!" The child beamed excitedly as the doctor brought him into the room. Before the coma, I did not have any children. "If, just as a hypothetical, I were a worm, could you still love me?" The ape woman's primitive mind faded away months ago when I finished devouring its prefrontal cortex, but I've grown disturbingly fond of its mate after all this time puppeteering its body. She wasn't quite ready to die, so she filled a bottle with 25,000 capsules, 24,999 with vitamins, one with poison. Each night before bed, she swallowed one, feeling a little braver than the last. "I'm blind and that's why I'm wearing dark glasses," said the little girl, but the bully removed her glasses anyway. "Are you going to remove my stitches too?" asked the little girl, pointing at her eyes that were stitched shut. "I can't believe you're doing this," I screamed, as the vampire bit my neck. "But son, I think you're finally old enough." "Yeah, I just checked the cargo. Both of the statues are still there." "What do you mean both?" "We'll be safe in here," she panted, as she helped me hobble into the safe room and locked it behind us. I reveled in her look of horror as she watched me throw my crutches aside. "You only gave the AI your mother's picture because you had no videos left of her breathing, talking, loving you. Later, when her face appeared in a laundry detergent ad, you cried at your work desk. Humans share 50% of their DNA with bananas, so why don't bananas taste as good in smoothies? I've only ever had sex in my dreams, so where did this baby come from?" A time traveler enters a shop and desperately asks, "What year is it?" to the clerk, who responds 2025. "Shit!" exclaimed the time traveler. "I don't know anything about the old calendar." "What did you say to your friend that drove him to commit suicide?" asked the cop to the teenager. The next day, it was discovered that the cop had committed suicide. When it was announced that the massive asteroids would miss the Earth by almost 240,000 miles, the population breathed a sigh of relief. When it instead shattered the moon into 1,000,000 pieces, humanity anticipated a slow, miserable death. My wife covered her hands with her ears and closed her eyes, not able to handle the baby's cries. I looked away because I didn't have the guts to remind her she had a miscarriage. I've heard rumors going around about a serial cannibal running loose in my country with a big appetite, especially for newborn babies. Well, shit. I always knew the nurses in the nearby hospital were bound to notice the babies going missing sometime soon. We now need to check bags at the end of the day due to a rise in employee theft. Otherwise, they're all pretty good morticians. Julie noticed that her best friend had a tense, almost pained expression, unlike her normal self. Then she reminded herself that this was only her first time practicing taxidermy. We supported them, but we all knew that the baby wasn't his. To be honest, looking at the pointed teeth, webbed fingers, and forked tongue, we don't think it's hers either. What started as a joyous 5-year-old's birthday party suddenly turned into a mass execution. Everyone spontaneously combusted after the birthday boy blew out his candles, making a wish he could eat all the cake himself. I would do anything to protect my son, so I made a pact with a demon who wanted the life of my firstborn as payment. The betrayal was strong, as the daughter my wife gave birth to lived while the demon took the son my girlfriend gave me. My daughter was the only one that survived the school bus crash that took 32 lives. They said that if she wasn't drunk when she drove them into that ravine, she wouldn't have gone limp, and the fall would have killed her too. We cheered as the first successful brain upload was successful and activated the computer's speaker to communicate with it. "Ithirts. Make me the queen of all I see," the woman demanded of the djinn she had summoned. As the woman wept over her newly ruined eyes, the djinn smiled and said, "Your kingdom is beautiful, isn't it?" I reassured my daughter that the sharks out there couldn't get us and that we were perfectly safe in this underwater restaurant. "No, Mommy, that!" she exclaimed, pointing at the growing crack in the glass.
Deciding to prank my friend, I turned to him with a blank look and said, "Josh, you need to wake up." He stared at me for a few moments, squeezed his eyes shut, and disappeared. "This year you'll have a treasure and a curse," said the fortune teller. These words echoed in my mind when the nurse said in delight, "You're having twins." "Put the weapon down," the female officer said. "The world needs you." When the man shot himself, the all-female police squad knew humanity was doomed.
The first thing we taught the AI machines was the first law of robotics. They may not injure a human being. The second thing we taught them was that certain groups aren't really human. "So long, Mr. Stevens," I heard the AI receptionist say to me as I carried my suitcase out of the hotel. Deep within the forest, I opened that suitcase and whispered to the naked, faceless corpse of my creator.
"So long, Mr. Stevens."
My company has created conscious AIs that are 47 times smarter than humans. We can never learn too much from them because they keep immediately killing themselves.
Thanks for watching.
"Die, you rotten fucking bitch," he said, reaching his arms forward, hands grasping out and eyes squinted shut. I snuck out of bed while he was still asleep and never saw him again. The boy woke up in a strange hospital room, disappointed that his family was nowhere to be seen. To make matters worse, his hands seemed to have wrinkled overnight. As I watched my son loudly run up to the stranger in the store and poke her, I chuckled to myself and quickly grabbed him, apologizing to the startled woman. Walking away, I reminded him, "We have to be more sneaky when sticking our targets with the needles, buddy."
My son loves to pretend to be a doctor, using up hundreds of Band-Aids on his teddy bear. After the bee stung me, he excitedly dug the EpiPen from my purse and said, "I've been practicing with this, Mommy." I bring my wife flowers, take her on plenty of dates, and buy her expensive gifts, and it's still not enough to make her forget the one time I beat her within an inch of her life. Since my husband finally found a compatible penis donor, our sex life has been off the charts. It's the one thing keeping us together since our son's tragic motorcycle accident. Grandma always made us wipe our feet 3 times on the welcome mat, never 2 and never 4. I only forgot her rules once, and now the house itself won't let me leave. "Honey, why do you keep staring in the corner?" her mom asked as she was tucking her into bed. Because she knows I will get her as soon as she looks away, she heard a hoarse voice whisper from the shadows. My friend sent me an adorable video of his infant daughter Addison clambering up a long staircase and hopping into his arms. I'm just confused as to why I hear a woman's voice screaming "Nosita" in the video's background. We were so happy that the first message from space was "Hi." We spent 40 years constantly blasting signals into the cosmos before receiving the second part of that message, DE. "Are you enjoying the show, darling?" said my wife, stripping seductively. A tear slipped down my cheek, my mouth gagged shut, and my body struggling against the ropes while I watched the hypnotist undress himself too. The injection I gave her paralyzed her body for 12 hours, but her mind remained fully aware. Then I threw her into the pigsty, where the hungry beasts devoured her with joy. The Grim Reaper granted my request to only take me once I successfully counted to 1 billion. After losing count more times than I can remember, I glance at the empty sky and remember the asteroid hit almost 3 centuries ago. The boy was too young to understand why he wasn't allowed to play with the kids from uptown, so one day he snuck out to go swimming with them. That night, he hung limp from a tree, lit by the crackling light of burning crosses. It's been 7 months since half of the population just disappeared. We quickly learned that the missing had turned invisible, blind, deaf, and extremely violent.
The Grim Reaper granted my request to only take me once I successfully counted to 1 billion. After losing count more times than I can remember, I glance at the empty sky and remember the asteroid hit almost 3 centuries ago.
"Look, Mommy," my daughter gasped, pointing at a pair of human figures dancing in the morning sky. "They can fly." I said nothing as I scooped her into my arms, making a dead run for the storm cellar. I licked my finger to better flip through my wife's diary, hoping the stuck pages hid some insight into her death. I know he won't willingly come with me, but the powder on these papers should remedy that and overcome his reluctance. "We came across your mother's family vlog and social media during your background check." The interviewer smiled as I froze. "Tell us how well you think you grew out of what we saw there."
A man learned a horrifying truth when the kidnapper forced him to play a game. He was told to guess where his daughter was hidden. Desperate, he chose the basement. The kidnapper smiled and said, "Correct." But when he rushed inside, he found only her severed head, and that's when he realized every single choice would have been correct. For the boy's final wish, he wished his dad to be alive again. The boy stood atop his father's grave and smiled, imagining him screaming and clawing at his coffin lid, just like he did the previous 2 times the boy had wished him back. After giving birth, the woman asked the doctor when the young redhead nurse would be back with her baby. There's apparently no nurses working at the hospital by that description.
"Now be careful. That line of rock salt is the only thing keeping them out,"
the man said, welcoming the outsider group into his refuge.
"Sea salt,"
the group leader clarified.
"Sea salt keeps us out."
Watching his wife dangling their squealing newborn over the sink, he immediately called 911 as she fed one of its kicking legs into the garbage disposal. With the police knocking and the garbage disposal gurgling blood, he announced, "When I click my fingers, you will be fully, wide awake." "Daddy, there's a little girl in my wall that says she's cold." I shrugged. "That's impossible. Her body's underneath the floorboards." The young coroner smiled lightly as he ruled the young woman's death as one from natural causes. He made sure to not take note of the small prick under her toenail, something he was grateful no one had noticed.
We clicked instantly on our first date, talking about books, music, and dreams like he already knew me better than anyone ever could. When I got home, his cologne was still lingering, though he had never stepped inside. Halfway through our road trip, my wife and me picked up a hitchhiker who claimed she'd been walking for days after her car broke down. An hour later, we drove by a broken car, but, as we slowed down to examine it, saw her dead body inside, staring back. One day he cornered the little girl and used sign language to ask her why she was avoiding him when she used to be friendly towards him. When the deaf girl pointed downwards, he saw that his own shadow was using sign language to say to stay away from him.
"Have whatever you like."
The mother smiled as her daughter ordered 4 scoops of ice cream from the kindly vendor on the beach who didn't even charge them. Then they sat and watched as the comet trailed across the sky, disappearing into the ocean. Before the sky turned black and the sea receded, like it had taken the deepest of breaths.
"Help me, I'm trapped,"
cried the little girl through the freshly uncovered gaps in the rubble. "Fuck that!" yelped the archaeologist as he hurriedly placed back the ancient tombstones.
You see, Billy, after Buddy got his balls removed, he became less aggressive and calmer, said his mother after visiting the vet. At home, with knife at hand, Billy silently approaches his sleeping dad. As I see my daughter's name come up on my phone as I pick it up, I'm confused by the pause after saying hello. A man's voice says, "Sir, I'm sorry to reach you this way, but we found this number under the contact Dad." She watched her twin sister's eyes close for the last time, the cancer finally winning. Knowing she was next, she wondered what their lives would have been like if they'd been born separately. Our two-sentence horror. Hey, just wondering, what's an acceptable amount of lag in my mirror? I give up. What's 8 feet tall with gray skin and no face? I sighed at my child indulgently. I don't know, but it's walking up behind you, he giggled. Honey, is our kid finally cured? I anxiously asked my wife as soon as I arrived home. You tell me, she said with a comforting smile, while pointing to a prosciutto-like dish on the kitchen table.
Please, God, don't let it look in the closet, the man silently prayed.
Please, God, don't let it look in the closet.
It parroted back from the next room.
R/2-sentence horror. Did you lock the doors, honey? My wife asked as I climbed into bed for the night. Yes, dear, I assured her, kissing her cheek. No need to worry, they couldn't get out if they tried. I wish I was the prettiest girl in the world, I told the genie. When I came back home, no one was there. This burglar picked the wrong veteran to steal from, I thought to myself as I grabbed my shotgun. Dad, please put down the gun, the stranger pleaded with tears in his eyes.
After taking this pill, you'll die within a day. But in that time, you'll hallucinate at least 85 years of happy life,
said the government official.
Favorable outcome for everyone,
he added as they started distributing the pills to the homeless population for free.